Ow, owie. Alright. Hey, welcome back. It is Ted Lasso, Season 2, Episode 3. This one, what is it called? I gotta start talking about what the episodes are called. Titled, Do the Rightest Thing. Now I thought that was an apt title for this episode. We'll get into that. 3 major storylines this week. 3. I wouldn't necessarily say there was okay, here's what I would have to say was the A plot, B plot, C plot, A plot. Ted trying to reincorporate Jamie into the team, trying to get the teammates to be back on, to try to accept Jamie into the team. Because as we talked about last week, Ted kind of inexplicably just added Jamie back to the squad without telling any of the team. So that was the A plot, him trying to figure that out. B plot, Rebecca and this child. Rebecca's friend's child. Now I cannot remember what the child's name was, but it's Rebecca and this child, and Rebecca trying to reconnect with the young lady back from so many years ago where she kind of felt like she fell off as a godmother, where she did not do her job, and now she's trying to reconnect. And the C plot would be Sam and his ad campaign that turns out to be a bit of a sour ad campaign, if you know what I mean. I don't. Sam ends up doing this ad that he ends up not liking. He wants to pull the ad, and that leads to a bunch of strife, you could say, because the ad is the #1 sponsor for the team. They have them on their jerseys, for Christ's sake. Talk about the A plot first. There's not much I wanted to talk about with the A plot. We saw LASSO come out. Kind of a weird story. I guess it was for comedy. I felt like it didn't really amount to anything. Nothing really changed. It didn't really do anything except for the players are oh, good on. And then it led to Ted talking a little bit to Dr. Sharon Fieldstone. Season 1, Ted was good at everything he did. Everything Ted did kind of worked out. He just had these kind of personal life demons that he had to deal with. Not personal demons, but personal life demons that he had to deal with. This season, however, it seems like nothing he's doing is quite working, really. I mean, they're losing a bunch. Remember season 1, they started to win a little bit. Now they're tying and losing a lot. Dr. Sharon Fieldstone's kind of making him look the fool. This LASSO thing didn't work. He just comes across as a little bit more bumbling. I think it's worse. I enjoyed Ted Lasso for how good Ted was at his job. But that doesn't mean that I dislike this season at all. Moving on to storyline number 2. The scene that really stuck out was the first one, where Ted came in and Rebecca was talking to her old friend and they were gabbing, and Ted walks in and he's instantly kind of uncomfortable with the whole scenario. He reconnects with Rebecca's friend who he had a one-night stand with. That was all happy, and then immediately they start talking about Rebecca's friend's daughter is going to start her periods soon, and Ted just instantly gets uncomfortable, and it was one of those scenes that just brought out the happiness that Ted Lasso is so good at bringing out. In that scene, we got the quote of the day: make today your masterpiece. Make today our masterpiece. Make today our masterpiece. Little quote there. I like it. One quote from each episode. That's the quote of the day. Make today our masterpiece. And that storyline kind of goes down the line. Rebecca starts to figure out how to connect with this girl who she actually realizes that she has more in common with than she originally thought. Rebecca brings the girl to shadow her at work. The girl ends up being, good at Rebecca's job. It's all great. All fun, and it's all fun. All fun until, later on in the episode, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, the third storyline, Sam and his dad and his ad. So Sam ends up, doing this ad for this Dubai Air, who is owned by an oil company that is wreaking havoc in Nigeria, Sam's home country. Now, Sam does not know this, does the ad, sends it to his dad. His dad's like, whoa, I'm disappointed in you. This place is yada yada, is bad for Nigeria. And he basically, it was like he's disowning Sam. It's intense. And first off, that was kind of weird to me because, Sam just didn't know. Dad could be like, hey, you might not want to do this. But who knows? I'm not in that situation. So it just came off as a little intense. And Sam ends up taking matters into his own hands, goes to, well, I guess he puts them in Rebecca's hands, or Keely and Rebecca's hands. He goes into the office tells Rebecca, hey, I gotta pull this ad. And Rebecca says, I'll do it. I'll see what I can do. Rebecca and the daughter. This is where the episode kind of got really good for me, is this convergence of all the storylines, and I'll talk about that now. So Rebecca and the young girl, they contact the owner. The owner's like, gotta get rid of Sam. I'll pull the ad, but you gotta get rid of Sam, which is weird, number one, but you gotta get rid of Sam. And Rebecca and the girl are like, well, we're not gonna do that. So they stick up for themselves. And that, that was cool. Like, logically, like, what are you gonna do now? They're definitely gonna pull their money. Intense, super intense. But good for them for sticking up for Sam. That's where that storyline kind of comes in to the bigger picture of the episode, kind of the climax. All the storylines weave together to create this climax. In the locker room before the game, Sam and the other, people on the team who are of Nigerian descent decide we're gonna cover up the logo of the company that sponsors us because they're the bad company. And that's where Jamie stands up and is like, we're a team. I'll do it too. And that's where that storyline comes in. The Jamie trying to reconnect with the team storyline. And it seems like from this point on, they will be together. And then obviously they all go out onto the field, tape over it. Really cool moment. Made me happy. One of those, trademark LASSO happy moments. And then they lose, come back, but they're celebrating because they broke the tie streak, and it was just a big celebration, big happy ending. But I think that this was a really cool way for Ted Lasso to address the responsibility, not necessarily responsibility, but the current climate of athletes being political, or not necessarily political, but standing up for issues that they believe in. And then, the people who disagree with those issues will say stick to sports. But Ted Lasso is clearly making the statement that, these athletes are people too. The things that are happening in the world are affecting them, and that athletes should not be relegated to just silent entertainment while just for you to watch. And then you get to go talk about that kind of stuff all you want. I thought that it was a good way of tackling that, and I commend Ted Lasso for doing so. The way that Ted himself handled it after the game was cool. Media hubbub around it was accurate. I felt like just a cool overall episode. Best episode of the season so far. I would give that episode a 4 out of 5. And yeah, Ted Lasso. Can't wait for next week. See you then. Sorry this review is a little bit late, but I'll see you then.